So, as a young artist, there were many things that I did not know, and there were many things that I wish I had known. There are many, many things that could have really helped by being told those things, or just by understanding those at the very least. But I guess some of these things are just things that you come to understand with time in the art community. So, the first thing that I wish I had known, or at least been told, was that you definitely will not get commissions the moment you open them. You need to understand that there are a few things that need to be in order before you actually start receiving commissions, especially on a regular basis. If you're a new artist or you have a small following, you certainly won't get commissions right away. And that leads to another point. You will not become popular right away in like 99% of cases. I personally didn't get a very large following, upwards of like maybe 4,000 followers on Tumblr and in total, until I had been drawing digitally for, let's say, 10 years. It's really, really hard when it feels like nobody cares about your work, but there's definitely someone who does. Which brings me to another point, which would be to draw for yourself and not for others. Because if you're only drawing for the sake of other people, especially with no compensation, you're only drawing to receive attention or something, you will probably be miserable in what you're doing. You probably won't enjoy the drawing at all, and you just really need to focus on what you do best, what you enjoy most. Because if you actually enjoy the drawing, you'll be more likely to improve. At least because you have a better attitude about it. You would be more likely to receive commissions, I would think, because you would have that better attitude again. So next would be big advice that I give to everyone who actually asks for it, and that would be to use photographic references. Do not try to reference somebody else's artwork if you need help with learning how a body works, because you'll very likely learn someone else's mistakes. And let's be realistic, every single artist makes mistakes in their artwork. You really don't need to combine the mistakes you'll make naturally with the mistakes that somebody else makes, because then you'll just have more trouble getting right on track. You'll have more trouble learning the proper way to stylize a body or maybe draw a body realistically. I'm not sure if you heard it, but I just quacked. The next thing I would cover would be the fact that your art style will come naturally, and that you should not over-focus on developing it, because you'll most likely just drain yourself of energy. You'll find yourself going in circles between what really is your style and what isn't. You'll be a little confused. Just let yourself draw what you like and what you think looks good without completely re-emulating somebody else's artwork. And when I say that, I mean the whole recreating someone else's piece in the same everything, like the same style, the same coloring, the same subject. Now, while you're creating your own piece of work, it is just an emulation, which means it's a recreation of somebody else's work. So it's not your own, but instead it would be derivative. Sorry for going a little off track, but the point is that you can take inspiration from artists, which is how most people develop their art styles. However, completely recreating specific works of art over and over from somebody else would just result in your entire portfolio being derivative. Next, I would say not to compare your skill to other people's skill, otherwise you will definitely find yourself in a pit of despair. You will find yourself feeling not good enough. You will find yourself feeling very inadequate. This also relates to commissions. Don't think you're worse than someone because they have more commissions than you do. That doesn't really tell anything about your skill level, But also, you two are different people, completely different people in almost every single way, probably. So there's no chance you're gonna get the same commissions as them or do the same artwork as them. Next would be optional, but I really do recommend it, and it would be accepting and seeking constructive criticism on your artwork. If somebody gives you advice such as saying an arm is too long or too short, that would be the type of preferable criticism to receive, because they would be saying what is going wrong with the drawing, and they would also be saying how to fix it, because by specifying that something is too long, the solution of course would be to make it shorter. However, if all somebody has to say is that something looks off or ugly, you would be absolutely free to disregard that unless you really do want some critique. You can ask them what specifically seems off and what to fix. Next is a mistake that people make in art as well as other categories, and that would be letting other people pressure you into doing something that you do not want to do or that you are not okay with doing. If someone wants you to draw something for them, especially if it's for free, do not go against your own will for the sake of somebody else, especially if they're going to be as low as to pressure you into something that they know you are not willingly doing. Now, this next advice is something I'm very guilty of, but not as bad as some friends I've had, unfortunately. And that would be, I would highly recommend that you keep all of your old art, if possible, and not to throw it away or delete it from your computer, because it can be very valuable in the long run when you are comparing your new art to your old art to see how far you have come and how much you have improved. I personally have not saved all of my old art for varying reasons, but in the end I regret it very badly, because I'm very fond of looking through my old art and remembering old things that I could possibly revamp or recreate, but I no longer have access to it all, so it just makes me feel a little sad. The next piece of advice would be not to force yourself to draw when you are not able to draw. If your hand is hurting, please stop what you are doing and let yourself rest. If you can't come up with anything to draw, that would be a different case. If you really did want to draw, I would recommend doing so, but if you are not in the mood or up for drawing, I would not recommend doing it. Otherwise, you may grow to detest drawing. The next piece of advice varies from person to person because you never really know when you are quite ready to do this, but please try to learn the rules of art before you decide to break them. And usually what this refers to is like learning the basics of anatomy before you decide to draw stylized art, such as anime art or cartoony art. Things like that. It is so much easier and more realistic when you stylize it once you have learned your basics. The next piece of advice would be for artists who are selling their artwork, but younger artists are going at it nowadays. So it would be not to undersell yourself, at least not to an extreme if you are starting out, but especially don't undersell yourself if you have been taking commissions for a while. Try to raise your prices slowly at least, but underpricing your art is bad for yourself as well as others who are selling their art for so many reasons that I will not go into because I am not so well versed in it. I'm not big on economics, I never took a class in it, but I have heard other people who are well versed in it discuss it. And finally, I think the last piece of advice I would have would be to choose a good username for your more professional account or your art account. Basically, brand yourself with a good name, a name that you want other people to see you as. In my case, I use the username Dollyguts under most circumstances, but I also use my full name, Tirza, as well as my name shortened, which is T. But ultimately, I would recommend something that sounds clean, easy to say, and easy to read, at least for your intended audience. I think that would be about it, so thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.